Welcome back, everyone. Now, I do have to preface this recap video with a little disclaimer. Unfortunately, the video got deleted, so there's not going to be any cuts to seeing how you all played or anything like that. Unfortunately, it's just going to be me recapping the story that unfolded. So bear with me and take a seat as we embark on what previously happened on Tales of Aslyria. The group ran back to the city as fast as they could. Upon arriving, they were concerned on what to do and where to go. Now, Bonnie was adamant that she needed to see Percy and get him to safety. The group decided to go check on Papadodo and the animals at the Colosseum, but as they approached, they noticed a cloaked man and decided to confront him. Ajin demanded he tell them who he works for, and he screamed in fear. Linus then tries to calm him and asks where he got the cloak, and he tells them they were handed out at the Colosseum during the games to everyone. At this comment, they slowly start to realize everyone is wearing or carrying cloaks. Now, the man then screams for guards to come and help him. And after a bit of confusion, Linus sneaks away. While Linus needs to see Papadodo and make sure he and the animals were safe, Elchrist, Ajin, and Dynestra and the assaulted man started to head towards the city dungeon for questioning. Meanwhile, Bonnie found a drunken Percy dancing and celebrating with the townsfolk in the Three Bridges Tavern and Inn. She tried to tell him to leave and explained they're in danger, but Percy was too upset about her leaving him behind and not seeing that he loves her. After some convincing, the two leave and notice the group being escorted to the dungeon. After trying to explain the situation, the guards called for assistance and intended to take the whole group, minus Linus, to the dungeon. Elchrist wasn't having it. He decides to fly back towards the Colosseum while the others try to get away and head off to see High Mage Carlisle. Back at the Colosseum, Linus, looking for Papadodo, finds a bomb in the corridor of the Colosseum. Not sure how to defuse the bomb, she continues on to where she believes Papadodo is located. Upon seeing Papa loading up the animals, she begins to explain the situation, but he's furious. She wasn't there to see him off, wasn't there to celebrate his retirement, and he tells her that he is deeply disappointed in her. She starts to take the wagon and the animals and him and leave the unloaded animals behind, but Papa refuses to leave without them. The two get in a fight, and Papa knocks her unconscious with his bow staff and loads her into the wagon. Now, Elchrist, being pursued by one of the young guards, ends up disarming a bomb with him. The guard runs off back towards the city as Elchrist approaches the Colosseum. Elchrist enters and passes the same bomb that Linus passed and finds Papadodo loading the last of the animals with an unconscious Linus in the wagon. Elchrist explained the situation and, to prove, shows the maps that they had. Now, Papa believed and was honestly upset that he had knocked Linus unconscious, but he instructs Elchrist to get out and take Linus to safety. He will take care of the bomb near the entrance. After getting Linus out, Elchrist knows there are more bombs in the Colosseum, so he goes to search for them. Now, during the whole kerfuffle outside of the dungeon, right before Elchrist left, Dynestra was able to make it away to Carlisle, while the now, after Elchrist had flown off back towards the Colosseum, Dynestra made it to Carlisle while the others distracted the guards. She explained that what they saw, but she had no proof to show him, only her word. Elchrist had the maps. Carlisle, already annoyed he was pulled away by Gideon earlier for a very similar reason, instructs Dynestra to be quiet. He knows that this could just be a small minor thing. He's seen it happen many times. She refuses, so Carlisle asks to speak with her in private. He takes her back to the Mage Center, where he casts a sleep spell to keep her quiet. Now, during this whole talk with Carlisle, Bonnie, Percy, and Ajin head off towards the tower. They want to stop the bomb that's at the tower. As they approach, the guards try to stop them, piercing Percy through the shoulder with an arrow. Ajin, having no idea how to stop the bombs, and Bonnie, consumed with fear about Percy now, they had no idea what to do. Percy then looks at Bonnie and starts sobering up real quick after taking that hit and confesses his love to her. Now, due to this kerfuffle, Carlisle sends Gideon to see what's going on the other side of the spire. As Gideon approaches the group, the guards stand down as he tries to escort them and encourage them to leave the spire. During all of this, back on the other side of town, we get back to a concussed Linus waking up in the wagon outside of the Coliseum. She doesn't see Papa, but she sees smoke and hears some screams coming from inside the Coliseum entrance. Linus runs to the entrance, calling for Papa, and finds him semi-buried beneath some rubble. She's finally able to pull him free and help him walk. As she's going, Papa notices a part of the entrance is about to cave in, and in the split-second moment that he has, he stops, pushes Linus through the opening, and he gets crushed at the entrance. Linus turns and sees Papa's hand limp outstretched beneath the rubble. She falls to her knees and screams in rage and pain. Now, back at the city, as Gideon's trying to get everybody to leave, an unfamiliar hooded man stands atop of the theater building. He gives a speech in Draconic for all to hear, but no one awake knows Draconic. He then seems to cast some sort of spell that ends up emitting a green gas from the sewers. Some people take notice. The closest, they start to fall unconscious. As this happens, half the city guard turn to the other guards they're standing next to and slit their throats, killing them instantly. They put on masks to prevent them from falling asleep from the gas. This was clearly more planned than the group had realized. Similarly, this gas starts to come from vents at the Coliseum, where Elchrist is defusing another bomb. He manages to stop the bomb and rushes towards the exit as he hears an explosion and familiar screams. But the gas overtakes him, and Elchrist falls unconscious in the Coliseum. Back at the Spire, the group, along with Gideon, bolt and head back towards Carlisle in the Mage Center. By this time, Dynastra is waking up, irritated that Carlisle didn't listen and they could have prevented this whole thing from beginning. But she begins to lay down cover fire to help them and the children and all of her friends get inside the Mage Center. Once inside, Gideon takes Lady Corelia and the children one by one down a secret passageway within the Mage Center. But it's proving slow and cumbersome. So Carlisle invokes a force field around the center to help protect them. Dynastra and Ajin decide they can't wait, and they try to keep the guards from entering. This causes a battle, and while they make a dent, it's not enough. Ajin begins throwing bomb barrels towards them, and he takes out a few of them, but it's just not enough. In a moment, the bomb at the spire goes off, chunks of gem spire falling all around them, and the hooded man is gone. Now, while Elchrist was unconscious, he had a dream, a vision, an out-of-body experience. It's hard to tell, but he remembers it as it was real. Now, we can't tell you what that experience was. That would be a spoiler. Only he knows what he heard and saw, and only he knows what to do with that information. Elchrist wakes up in a medical tent next to Bonnie 3 days later, with Linus near his bedside. After waking up and speaking to Linus, they try to stir Bonnie. She awakens as well. The three leave and find Dynastra and Ajin helping where they can. We learn that High Mage Carlisle is dead, along with most of the children in Elchrist's family, as the entire Mage Center had been destroyed when the tower fell. They said Bonnie was lucky to even survive. Dynastra and Ajin, they were outside and ran once the center was destroyed. They later came back and found Bonnie hanging on to what life was left. Percy was crushed. Bonnie, hearing this, remembers in flashes seeing a chunk come down and crush Percy, Carlisle, and many of the women and children inside. Her heart stops for a second. Tears flow from her eyes. She's quiet. She doesn't know what to do. Linus found Elchrist. He was in the Coliseum. He was pinned and unconscious, but she pulled him out. They ended up bringing him to this medical tent to recover. We also learn that Lord Corelia is presumed dead. No one has seen him or his body. They can't find him. There's been so much fire there. And he's burned up. Due to this, Lady Corelia, who's grieving the loss of her husband, has taken charge of the city and has helped in the recovery needs. Some of you take notice, and they realize that she's finally coming into her own. This is what she's meant to do. You also find out other unfortunate truths, one of which is that another tower had fallen. Many cities had lost a significant portion of their populace. There were casualties all over the continent. After having a light ate breakfast, many of you not really wanting to eat after hearing this unfortunate news, you decide to meet up with Lady Corelia and inquire about what has happened. What are ways you can help? You inquire about Gideon, and you kind of thought that he would be there helping as well. But Lady Corelia reveals Gideon's headed back to the Mage Circle with Carlisle's body for a proper mage burial. And he is going to head to the capital of Avalon to meet with the king to see what aid he can be in this terrorist attack, especially now that Carlisle's gone. She asks what they plan to do next, to which Linus and Elchris say they need to head home. They need to take care of the animals. Bonnie, not really speaking up until this moment, asks if she can join, to which they generously say, of course. Linus has no desire to stay, as Papa has died, and many of his tiefling friends in the city are under investigation due to their connection to the Tharosian people. You tried to convince them that Tharos isn't a part of it, but all you had are maps. The maps didn't say who or what was the cause, just how the attack was going to happen, which now doesn't really seem relevant. Dynestra is deeply upset about Carlisle's death. It's really her only friend topside, the only person who really believed that she could help to bridge cultures. She wants to seek answers, and she asked Lady Corelia for a private word with Captain Swift. Ajin, wondering if this is the man he has been seeking, decides to accompany her on this quest. Lady Corelia approves, since they have been very valuable the past few days. Dynestra and Ajin enter the guarded tent where they meet Captain Swift. He tells them he had nothing to do with it, but he's also trying to stay a little quiet. Doesn't want to reveal anything, really. But Ajin speaks up and asks for his real name. He says, "Are you Din?" He looks at him a little cautiously and gives a slight nod, confirming. And then Ajin tells him that Architect Prime sent him and said, "James has found the key and darkness is rising." Captain Swift, Din, straightens up a little bit and looks at them. He can't believe that it's true, that he is here. He starts to look a little nervous. He looks around to make sure that nobody else is watching. "You have to trust me," he says. "What's about to happen is going to seem a little chaotic, but if what you say is true and James has found the key, then we don't have time to waste. Do you trust me?" Ajin and Dynestra trade glances, and they agree. They're not sure why they agree, but they seem to trust him. They're not sure what's about to happen, but they're going to trust him and hopefully help in whatever way they can. All of a sudden, there's a flash of light where Din stands, and now there's a naked 10-year-old boy screaming for help. The guards run in, Lady Corelia as well, and he asks, "What is happening? Who is this?" They're confused. They don't know what's happening, but there's this naked 10-year-old boy that is cuffed to where Captain Swift was. She asks Dynestra and Ajin, "What happened? Who is this?" "We don't know," they said. He was here one moment, and then all of a sudden there was a bright flash and he was gone, and this little boy was in his place. "Well, uncuff him at once," Lady Corelia says to them. And the guards uncuff him. They give him a quick little blanket, throw it over his shoulders, ask Ajin and Dynestra to take the boy to safety. And Lady Corelia instructs the guards to start searching all the tents nearby. After leaving the tent, the boy, seeming very scared and nervous, is leading the two of them towards the docks. He's wrapped in this blanket tight, still naked, but wrapped in the blanket tight. The two are trying to ask questions, but he's like, I don't know. Just follow me." They board a small but sturdy ship. It's definitely not a pirate ship by any means. It's not even a real big shipping vessel. It's just a small sailboat. They seem confused, but the boy takes the helm and casts off. He instructs them to help set sail, and as they start to sail off and they get a decent way away from the city where nobody can really see them, the bright white light happens again, and he is transformed once more into the man they saw in the tent. Still no clothes, completely butt naked. The blanket has fallen at his feet, and he is just standing firm, sailing the boat. Dynestra and Ajin look really confused. As they begin to sail off, he says, "Let me tell you a story." Now, back on the other side of town, we see Bonnie, Linus, and Elchris loading up the wagon. They're heading out of town towards the kingdom of Tharos. Elchris tells Linus he's worried that this is not over and that they need to keep moving. Bonnie is sitting holding one of the animals, stroking it, petting it. She's in complete shock. Her fall nature seems to start turning into more of a crumpled leaves. Her dress is slowly changing. Her demeanor is darkening. Strips of white are going throughout her hair. As they start to head off, Elchris feels a chill down the back of his neck. The hair raises. There's a slight pain in his head as he hears dissonant voices. Say, us. Elchris glances back, looks at the tower with a determined look. They head off. Elchris, Linus, and Bonnie towards the kingdom of Tharos. And just like a movie, it fades to black. You think that's it. You think this is the end of the story, but it's not. It slowly comes back, and we see that hooded man, the familiar hooded man, not the one on top of the theater, but the one we've seen many times, who helped them in the forest, who left them the note to go to the forest. We see him once again, but this time standing on a gray, just very black gray, rocky place. There's no dirt, no grass, just random trees with bright, colorful leaves. And at the top of what almost looks like a staircase is a great, translucent, yet shimmering dragon. The world around them, there's no world. It's a floating rock in space. There's stars and galaxies, and even the space that they're in, it's purple and blues and pinks just swirling all around this rock. You see chunks of ancient and futuristic-looking machines and places all floating in the space around, and then they begin to talk. They talk about how this is the last time they can interfere. They talk about, is this the group foretold in legend, or are they the ones that will doom the multiverse? The hooded man assures him that they will succeed where he has not. The dragon lets out a deep, gravelly, billowing roar. They must, or you know what must be done. We see the profile of the hooded man. His green eye flashes bright. There's a deep scar going down from the middle of his forehead to the middle of his cheek. He has faded brown hair that is starting to salt and pepper. He has a long beard similar to Gandalf, and he says, yes, if he fails, I will kill him again. The dragon nods in acceptance of this. The man smirks as he glances back at the dragon, and then he walks through a purple portal once more. That is where the prologue ended, but it is not where the story ends. This is where the true story begins. Welcome to the Tales of Aslyria.